Hello, friends. Welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back again to listen to the Word of God. May God bless you and take care of you always for this. And let's continue with the reading, with today's reading as well. And today's gospel, or today's verse that I'm going to read, will be about God says, man does not live on bread alone, but by every word that comes out from the mouth of God. So let's try to um, follow up with that, and let's try to remember that we need the word of God to sustain, to survive, for our survival. So I will continue with Numbers 19, and today is about the ashes of the red cow. Let's Let's see what the Gospels say about this. The Lord commanded Moses and Aaron to give the Israelites the following regulations. Bring to Moses and Aaron a red cow which has no defects and which has never been put to work, and they will give it to Eleazar the priest. It is to be taken outside the camp, and it is to be killed in his presence. Then Eleazar is to take some of its blood with its fingers, sprinkle it 7 times in the direction of the tent. The whole animal, including skin, meat, blood, and intestine, is to be burned in the presence of the priest. Then he is to take some of the priest. So he is to take some of the cedar wood, a sprig of hyssop, it's hyssop, and a red cord, and throw them into the fire. After that, he is to wash his clothes and pour water over himself, and then he may enter the camp, but remains ritually unclean until evening. The man who burned the cow must also wash his clothes and pour water over himself. Then he will also remain unclean until evening. Then a man who is ritually clean is to collect the ashes of the cow and put them in a ritually clean place outside the camp, where they are to be kept for the Israelite community to use in preparing the water for removing ritual uncleanness. This ritual is performed to remove sin. The man who collected the ashes must wash his clothes, but he remained unclean until evening. This regulation is valid for all times to come, both for the Israelites and for the foreigners living among them. Contact with the corpse. Whoever touches a corpse is ritually unclean for 7 days. He must purify himself with the water for purification on the third day and on the seventh day, and then he will be clean. But if he does not purify himself on both the third and the seventh day, he will not be clean. Whoever touches a corpse and does not purify himself remain unclean, because the water for purification has not been turned, and he will no longer be considered one of God's people. If anyone dies in a tent, anyone who is in the tent at the time of death or who enters it becomes ritually unclean for 7 days. Every jar and pot in the tent that has no lid on it also becomes unclean. If someone touches a person who has been killed or has died on a natural death out of doors, or if someone touches a human bone or a grave, he becomes unclean for 7 days. To remove the uncleanness, some ashes from the red cow which was burned to remove sin shall be taken and put in a pot, and fresh water added. In the first case, someone who is ritually clean is to take a sprig of hyssop, dip it in water, and sprinkle the tent, everything in it, and the people who were there. In the second case, someone who is ritually clean is to sprinkle the water on the man who had touched the human bone or the dead body or the grave. On the third day and on the seventh, the person who is ritually clean is to sprinkle the water on the unclean person. On the seventh day, he is to purify the man who, after washing his clothes and pouring water over himself, becomes ritually clean at sunset. Anyone who has become ritually clean and does not purify himself remain unclean, because the water for purification has not been thrown over him. He defies the Lord's stand and will no longer be considered one of God's people. You are to observe this rule for all times to come. The person who sprinkles the water for purification must also wash his clothes. Anyone who touches the water remains ritually unclean until evening. Whatever an unclean person touches is unclean, and anyone else who touches it remains unclean until evening. So, this is today's reading, and by reading this today's verse of the Bible, I just remember uh, on the Easter Vigil night, the priest usually takes the holy water and sprinkles us all when the bell rings and things like that. I used to wonder before why it was done, and just by reading today's gospel, today's verse, it just made me think it's about those things that is being told about purification. So, thank you so much for staying till the end, and thank you so much to all those who have faithfully followed up with my reading and my reading in this sense. You are keeping in touch with the Word of God, and this is a very good thing, or it is it is a blessing for you. You are going to be getting a blessing for getting in touch with the Bible, listening to the Word of God. So that will nourishes you spiritually and enlighten you in your life and make your life much more happier, and it will bring fulfillment. That's what I can guarantee you. So keep in touch always and stay connected with the Bible, and let's start reading the Word of God, and let's live in His presence every day. So thank you so much for staying till the end, and I'll see you tomorrow in my next reading. Thank you so much. Bye bye.